breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Scott Seidenberg. He does such great work over here at VSiN. We're going to be chatting with him about what we've all seen here in the first week plus of the season, how he tries to be able to find edges with regards to his bets, even though we have a very limited amount of data, what he all relies upon in terms of being able to just find a way to be able to get those edges, and how he takes a look at this early part of the season. We'll talk with him about a few teams that he's bullish/bearish on, and a few bets for Saturday in the final segment. Gonna get you guys picks and analysis and every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at Junit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. Boy, oh boy, did we have a fun day of baseball on Friday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Philadelphia Phillies absolutely take it to the Colorado Rockies. This by a count of 10-1 as the Phillies were up 7-0 at the end of the first inning. Aaron Nola, he did look pretty super in this game. Gives up just 1 run in 6 and a third innings, punched out 9. So nice to see him looking all good. Tim Mesa, Zach Pop, they were popping for a scoreless inning apiece. Kyle Backus comes in for a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. And Valentin Belozo was not a bozo after Michael Lorenzen was. Michael Lorenzen gives up 9 runs in 3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Bryce Harper gets a second home run in the campaign. And then for Brandon Marsh, his first of the season, Belozo gives up a solo home run to Kyle Schwarber, third home run season, but 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Too bad it was way too little, way too late. And Miles Michaelis might be your new Patrick Corbin, ladies and gentlemen. 13-6. The Dodgers take it out on the Washington Nationals as Michaelis gives up 11 runs in 4 and a third innings, including a quartet of bombs. As you had Freddie Freeman get his second home run in the campaign, Mookie Betts his second, Shohei Ohtani his first home run season, Andy Paz his second, and then Kyle Tucker a little bit later on off of Ken Waldichuk, first home run season. Waldichuk gives up that home run in 2 innings of work. Andre Granillo gives up a run in 2 innings of work. Gus Varlin, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Emmett Sheehan, he does give up 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, including a home run to CJ Abrams, second home run in the campaign. Blake Trinan and Ben Casparis from there, both on the scoreless inning. Eduardo Enriquez was able to come in there. He gave up 2 runs in an inning, and Track Dreyer in out of the bullpen scoreless to be able to get the job done out there for the Detroit Tigers. They shut out the St. Louis Cardinals. This by a count of 4-0 as for Detroit, you had Framber Valdez supply 6 scoreless innings. From there, Will Vest, Kyle Finnegan, Tyler Holden, they all lend a scoreless inning. And then for Michael McGreevy, he grieved the fact that he gave up 3 runs over the course of 4 2/3 innings, including a home run as Dylan Dingler, second home run in the campaign. Justin Brule was able to give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Grayson Garcifa along with Chris Roycroft both give you a scoreless inning, and George Soriano gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning as well. For the Yankees, they take down the Miami Marlins by a count of 8-2, and the Yankees 6-1. They right now lead the big leagues record-wise as he had a pair of home runs for the Yanks. Aaron Judge is third of the season. That comes off of Iri Perez, who walked 6, gave up 4 runs over the course of 4 innings. For the Yankees, they get 8 runs off of 6 hits because there were just a lot of walks given out in this game. 11 in total by Marlins pitchers, and Michael Peterson, great name. Not so great the fact that he gave up a home run to Ben Rice, second of the campaign for Rice. Peterson gives up a run in an inning. You had Tyler Phillips give up an unearned run in 2 innings of work. Lake Bakar, he goes for an inning. He gives up 2 runs along the way. And Will Warren, 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Tim Hill and out of the bullpen squirrels, Jake Burr, Brent Hendrick, and Ryan Yarbrough. They're all able to turn a scoreless inning of their own. As for the Marlins being able to get those 2 runs off of Warren, you had Xavier Edwards get his first home run of the season, and Owen Cossey was able to get his second home run of the campaign. For Boston, they were able to get back online. They took down the San Diego Padres by a count of 5-2. As for the Pods, Michael King, he was the king of giving up 4 runs in 5 2/3 innings, including a home run, as Marcelo Meyer was able to get his first home run of the campaign, and that comes off of Wandy Peralta, who gives up a solo home run in 1 1/3 innings. Ron Marinaccio, scoreless inning, and Sonny Gray, he was pretty sunny on this day, giving up 2 runs in 6 innings. Greg Weiser, Justin Slayton, Aroldis Chapman, Allende, scoreless inning. So Red Sox are able to get back online there. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, they're off to a 4-3 start. 5-4, they take down the Baltimore Orioles in this game. You had, for Pittsburgh, Mitch Keller, give you a pretty solid start. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, and out of the bullpen scoreless. Mason Montgomery, he gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Dennis Santana, scoreless inning. Gregory Soto, he gives up a run in an inning. He gave up a solo home run to Gunnar Henderson. Second home run on the campaign as Kyle Bradish. 4 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings. Not great there. Diedrich Enns, he gives up a run in an inning, but you had Rico Garcia give you a scoreless inning, and Tyler Wells, he pitched very well, giving up no runs in 2 scoreless innings, but damage had been done, and for the Orioles, 1 of 9 with men in scoring position. That is just not going to quite cut it there. For the Chicago White Sox, they find a way in extra innings to get the job done against the Toronto Blue Jays. 5-4 the final. Dylan Cease going up against his former team. Walked 3, gave up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 4 1/3 innings, as it was hurt by his own error. So he pretty much gave up all those runs. I think that when the pitcher commits an error, those runs should be given up to him, but that said, that's a discussion for a different day. From there, the bullpen was not too bad. Brandon Little, Louis Varland, Taylor Rogers, all into scoreless inning. Braden Fisher, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and then Jeff Hoffman. He comes in the 10th inning. He gives up 2 unearned runs. Tyler Heineman, who he had to fill in at the catcher spot because Alejandro Kirk got hurt in the 10th inning. He makes a throwing error that costs the team, and in this game, the White Sox went with an opener as you had Grant Taylor lend a scoreless inning, and then from there, Sean Burke, 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings, punched out 7. Jordan leisurely gives up 2 runs in an inning as he gives up a home run to Andres Gimenez. Second home run in the campaign. Sean Newcomb, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Sir Anthony Dominguez, 4 outs out of the bullpen, the final out of the 9th inning, and then into the 10th, gives up an earned run, so he was able to do just enough to get the job done. Brewers versus Royals got postponed, so we're going to get a double dip on Saturday there, but out there in Minnesota, things were not postponed, and the Twins, well, they postponed a win for the Rays, 10-4. The Twins get the job done. Rays now 2-5, and the bullpen is just terrible. Joe Boyle, not a bad start here, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 5 1/3 innings. Hunter Biggie, bare outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Kevin Kelly, he got 1 out, and he gave up 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, and Yandres Gomez gives up a home run in 1 2/3 innings, allowing 1 run in total, as it was Trevor Gray getting his first home run in the campaign. Bailey Ober was not great in this game, gives up 3 runs in 4 innings. Bullpen from there was solid, though. Eric Orze, 2 scoreless innings. Justin Topa, Cody Funderburk combined for a scoreless inning. Anthony Banda, he gives up a run in his inning of work, and Cody Lawyerson was able to come in for a scoreless inning, as the Rays still did go 4 of 13 with men in scoring position, so that'll get the job done, and this got the job done for the Cleveland Guardians. 4-1, they're able to take down the Chicago Cubs. Joey Cantillo, nice start here, 1 run allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Matt Fessa had a fiesta with a pair of outside the bullpen scorers. Connor Brogdon, Sean Armstrong, Keith Smith, all into scoreless inning. Cade Orton only lasts 1 inning in this game. From there, Colin Ray said hit hip hooray to giving up just 1 run in 3 1/3 innings. Hobie Milner, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Hunter Harvey gives up a pair of home runs, 3 runs in total in 2/3 of an inning, going deep off of him. Gabriel Urias, second home run season, and Chase Salwater, home run number 5 of the campaign, and then Jacob Webb from there, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. So that puts the Cubs behind the 8 ball with regards to their bullpen usage. For the Reds, they were on to a 5-3 win over the Walker Texas Rangers. Brady Singer had the Rangers singing the blues, giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Sam Moll, Tony Santia, and Emilio Pagan all under scoreless inning. Graham Ashcraft, well, he wasn't a load of Ashcraft, but not great. A run allowed in an inning, and Mackenzie Gore, he gives up a pair of home runs, 3 runs in total over the course of 6 innings, as you had Spencer Sear get his first home run in the campaign. Ellie De La Cruz, home run number 3, and then for Tyler Stevenson, he goes deep off of Chris Martin in the 9th inning. Martin gives up 2 runs in an inning, as Chase Wynn, Jacob Junis both landed scoreless inning, but it was the Reds being able to get the job done on this day. Being able to get the job done on this day is the New York Mets, doing this as they're wrapping up the bottom of the 9th inning, so you might get a insurance run / a just meaningless run here at the end of the game for the San Francisco Giants, but as I'm doing this, 10-3 in the bottom of the 9th inning for the New York Mets. Pretty solid start from Noel McLean, gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 5 1/3 innings, and they were able to get a pair of bombs from Francisco Alvarez. His 2nd and 3rd of the campaign goes deep off of the starter Tyler Mully, who he gave up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then goes deep off of JT Brubaker. 1 1/3 innings, he allows 3 runs, all of which were earned. Matt Gage from there, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Caleb Killian and out of the bullpen scoreless after Eric Miller gave up a pair of runs in the 9th inning, and then Currently on for the Mets, Luis Garcia is closing things out. Richard Dickey Lovelady run allowed in an inning of Scarborough Zobin. A scoreless setting of Brooks Raley does not go off the Rayleys. He's able to get a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You're able to get a nice scoreless affair here from the Atlanta Braves, 2-0. They shut out the Arizona Diamondbacks. As for the Atlanta Braves, you had Grant Holmes give a really good start. 1 hit, no runs allowed in 6 innings. Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, Racio Iglesias from there. They all turn a scoreless inning. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, really good start here for Arizona. 7 scoreless innings. Juan Murillo, a scoreless inning. And then Paul Sewald gives up a pair of solo home runs to Ozzie Albies and Matt Olson. Their second home runs of the campaign for both of them. Ryan Thompson from there, and out of the bullpen scoreless. So not great for Mr. Sewald, but pretty solid here for the Athletics. They entered in the night 1-5, now 2-5, 11-4. They're able to take down the Houston Astros. Christian Javier, 6 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. From there, Roderi Munoz, he gets 4 outs out of the bullpen. He gives up 5 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs. Lawrence Butler, first of the campaign. Max Muncy, the other Max Muncy, second home run of the season. You did have from there 3 scoreless innings, though, out of 1. Ryan Wise. Well, it would have been wise to put him in earlier because they were out of the game by then. Jeffrey Springs, though, good performance here from the Athletics. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. From there, you had JT Ginn and Juice give up 2 runs in 2 innings. Michael Kelly gives up a run in an inning. So a nice quality winner out there for the Athletics, and a nice winner for the Seattle Mariners. They get it done in 10 innings, 3-1. They're able to take down the Los Angeles Angels. For Brent Suter, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in the 10th, as this was 0-0 going into the 10th inning for the Angels. They go 0-1 with the runners in scoring position, despite the fact that this went to a 10th inning. For the Mariners, they did leave 10 men on base, but they overcome that because Brian Wu said woohoo to 7 scoreless innings. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Gabe Spire, all under scoreless inning. Angels, 1 total run in this game, so they were just completely held down. And if you're taking a look at what we've gotten here in baseball thus far this season, we're a little bit over a week through the season, and we've seen the unders have a little bit of a rough go of it the last few days. They had a nice lead on overs here a few days ago, but now we're up to 52 overs of 51 unders. So the overs are in the lead on unders, and favorites, they have been cleaning out. So how about 63 and 41 on the money line, hitting at over 60%, and all but 10 of those favorites have been able to cover the run line. So that's where we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's chat it up with our good friend Scott Seidenberg, who does such amazing work here at VSiN, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family podcast. It's funny because this podcast, I believe it's in its 8th season. I was having this guy on way before he ever started at VSiN, but our paths have crossed the last few years, and it's always great to get him aboard. It's Scott Seidenberg. He does great work with all of our weekend shows here at VSiN. He becomes, during the summertime, one of our ultimate utility men as well. He does a great job on so many different fronts, does an amazing job on the baseball front, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Scott's On Air altogether. And Scott, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
You know, Greg, I'm old enough to be referencing Luis Soho when considering myself as a utility man, but I guess we have to come up with a new modern take on it, like a Miguel Vargas or somebody, because I don't know if many of the listeners remember how important Luis Soho was to teams that he was on when he was such a pivotal utility man.
Hey, I remember Jose Oquendo back in the day, so there's that. We could go with Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. He's a guy that's a relatively good utility guy, so yeah, we'll go with IKF on this one. But that said, Scott, how do you take a look at just betting baseball this time of year? Because we're about a week and a half through the season, so data is very limited. Do you default a little bit more to 2025, maybe a little bit beyond that? How do you just try to slice and dice with there being just such a small sample size where a lot of people might try to overreact to 6 or 7 games?
I'm still using my priors, so I'm still looking at 2025 and the whole subset of that season. You can take some spring training data, but not much. Really, you just want to look at maybe for pitchers specifically, if their stuff was not great during the spring, like if they didn't have the same type of, rotation on their balls or movement or things like that. That's the type of spring training data that I would look at. I don't really care about batters in spring training because they haven't faced enough pitchers or enough pitches to even be considered a strong enough sample size to look at their stats. So I'm still relying on 2025 numbers. But as we get 10 or so games into the season, it's going to be a blend for me to take a look at 2026 data. And then I say once we're about 20 games or so, 25 games into the season, I'm only relying on 2026 data.
Yep, looking at you, Alec Manoah, who had one of the worst spring trainings I think I've ever seen in my life. So there's that. Hopefully we can get some starts out of him for the Angels, and that would be a good quality fade. And were there a few teams that coming into the season you were feeling a little bit bullish/bearish on, and probably still are, because if 7 to 8 games has you off, put on a team. I know that everyone out there in Boston is very much panicking about the Red Sox, but I think that's a little bit too early to be sounding the alarm yet. But that said, were there a few teams that you did find a little bit of value on, either to the positive or the negative, coming into the season?
Well, one of my win total investments was betting the over on the White Sox for their win total this year. And that number had gone up. I had, bet that at 66.5, 65.5, I think. And then it went up. I also sprinkled on them to win 70 games at an alternate price. They got the walk-off win on Friday, but they've gotten off to a terrible start this season. And the way that they're playing in the first couple of games, people are just thinking it's the same old White Sox that we've grown accustomed to seeing over the past couple of years. But this is a team, Greg, that surged in the second half of the year last year. A team that finished the season strong, that has a much more complete, talented roster this year. I think their pitching is better, and they should be able, I'm not going to say that they're going to compete in the American League Central, even though I don't think that anyone really is going to run away with that division, because I do think it's like at least a 3-team race. But I still think, even though they're off to a 2-5 start, I still think White Sox to go over that 66, 67 win total is a good bet, because this is an improved team from where they were last year. That being said, I'm not happy. I'm happy about the walk-off on Friday, but not happy about the 2-5 start.
And how do you take a look at a team like the White Sox, where I do think that their starting pitching is going to be solid? Anthony Kay actually had a really nice first start against the Brewers, but they're one of these teams I sort of think might be a really good team to live bet against, because the one thing I think that you'd agree with me on with the White Sox, man, that bullpen's not good.
Yeah, and I can't stand Sir Anthony Dominguez, just, from years watching him in Philadelphia. And then even last year in the playoffs, I know he was okay for the Blue Jays, but you still never felt comfortable when he was coming into the game in the postseason last year. And he pitched in almost all of their postseason games. It was like him and Louis Varland pitched every single game for the Blue Jays last year in that playoff run. But I don't trust him in the back end of that bullpen. Jordan Leisure is a decent pitcher. Newcomb, okay, from the left side. But I do think that they'll need some help in the back end of their bullpen if they truly want to be competitive this year.
Yeah, but I know that you've done a great job over the years in terms of finding some live betting options, as Scott Seidenberg, who does such great work here at VSiN, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And how much you just want to target these bad bullpens? Because I picked on the White Sox there, but I'm noticing that the Tampa Bay Rays this year, you always think, oh, good bullpen pitching when it comes to Rays, but when you're throwing out their Griffin Jackson the ninth inning, there's no way that your bullpen can be any good, in my opinion. They've been rough. Obviously, the Washington Nationals, needless to say, they've been relatively rough as well. And I feel like there's starting to be some teams that you can just step up, and if they get a 1 to 2 run lead with their bullpen, you just bet against them, and it's going to be very profitable this year.
It's difficult because it's still so early in the season, and we know that pitchers are the pitchers will get better towards the summer months. But then also we know the ball's going to fly once the weather gets warmer. But you're right. There have been some bad bullpens. You mentioned Tampa, Kansas City. Their bullpen absolutely stinks, right? Meanwhile, on the flip side, you look at teams how impressed have you been with the Marlins bullpen this year? They've been tremendous. The Texas Rangers have had a really good bullpen. The Yankees and the Mets, good bullpens this year. I don't necessarily put too much stock. Again, we're still early on. We're still building our data here for 2026. So for, the first week of the season, if your bullpen has a bad ERA, a lot of that could have come in just one inning, Greg. Could have come in just one blown save. All of a sudden, your bullpen ERA is through the roof. So I like to wait, until we get, like I said, into that 20 to 25 game range. So we start to focus purely on 2026 data to then really judge some of these bullpens. If I'm looking from a live betting angle, I'm looking at the offenses. I'm looking at if a lineup has been shut down over the course of a game, that maybe they break out. Yes, there are occasions where Aaron Judge is going to go 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts. But if the Yankees are down by 1 and Judge is 0 for 4 on the day and he's coming up, doing the 8th or 9th inning, I might place a live bet on the Yankees, thinking that a player like that is going to play to the back of his baseball card and come through. And you could look up and down Major League Baseball and look at situations that present themselves like that to see if a lineup is due to break out. And that being said, there are plenty of times where a lineup just absolutely does not score. Ask the Detroit Tigers the other day.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, the Giants in the first few games of the season as well, they were rough in that series against the Yankees as well. So such good points there. And I'm so glad that you mentioned the Yankees, because I know you've spent some time out there in the great state of New York, and with the Yankees, it feels like they're the most, shall we say, in-tune team thus far this season. They've started off very strong. I've loved what I've seen out of the pitching thus far. They were able to have a little bit of a nice explosion on Friday as well. How do you take a look at them? Because I feel like we've seen this a lot with the Yankees, where they present great value in the first few months. They hit a little bit of a wall in July/August, and it's all about them finding themselves in late September into early October as to how far their playoff run is going to be.
Let me give you some data here to put this into perspective. The Yankees have 6 hitters that are part of their regular rotation, their regular starting lineup. 6 hitters that are batting 192 or lower, Greg. Yet they're 6-1 with a run differential of plus 24.
Jeez.
You want to talk about getting the job done? That is a team that is getting the job done when you have Ben Rice getting off to a hot start, Stanton getting off to a hot start. The pitching is elite. You can overcome guys like Judge hitting below 200, Grisham below 200, Jazz below 200, Austin Wells, et cetera, et cetera. The fact that they're 6-1, the fact that they have this big run differential and they've gotten off to a hot start, think about when these players, like I said before, hit to the back of their baseball card. Think about when they start to put it together, how scary this team is going to be in about a month or so.
Yep, absolutely. And I feel like the Cody Bellinger signing was great as well, because the big, shall we say, knock on the Yankees over the last few seasons has been that they're a little bit all or nothing. And with Bellinger, he's a guy that can move the line, hit for some average, draw some walks. So I think that that's going to be big for them as well. Scott Seidenberg does such great work here at VSiN. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly we've got ourselves some great weekend games that are going to be going down, some fun Saturdays. And is there anything as of right now on the card for Saturday that you are going to be taking a look at? Because I know that with a lot of the trends that you utilize, you find a bunch of good ones on Sunday when a team goes down like 2-0 in a series or anything like that. But anything just on first glance that might be catching your eye for this Saturday?
Yeah, Shota Imanaga, looking for him to bounce back. Terrible in his first start, right? Gave up 4 runs to the Washington Nationals. I would hope that Shota bounces back here for the Chicago Cubs coming up on Saturday. He's facing, a Guardians team that doesn't really hit that well, and we know Slade Giacone got roughed up in his first start, so maybe that's a Cubs play here. I think that might be actually the Fox afternoon game or whatnot, and that depends on where you are regionally. And then elsewhere, just looking, that was the first place that I looked, was looking for guys like, and maybe Giacone's one of those guys also, so maybe like it's an underplay in that game. But I'm looking for, as these starters are making their second starts of the season, Greg, how much did the market or how much does the public overreact to their first start, right? So I mentioned Imanaga got roughed up in his first start. Does that sour people enough that they're not betting the Chicago Cubs, and you can get the Cubs at a good price, where if Imanaga threw 7 or 8 shutout innings on opening day, then you'd be paying a different price here? And on the other side, what about guys that were just elite in their first start? Is that true to what they're going to be, or was that just one good start? Like, is Randy Vasquez going to go out there and shut out the Red Sox lineup after he, threw 6 shutout innings against Detroit in his first start? So I'm very curious to see the market reaction or overreaction to pitchers that are making their second starts of the season here in this second series or third series of the season.
Yep, I do think that that's such a great look as well. And how much do you want to take a look at this as well? Because I don't think that there's a lot of guys that this is going to be holding true for. Maybe Dustin May, but there are some guys that came off of year number 1 of major surgery, Sandy Alcantara being a main of them, who really struggle. But I feel like in year number 2, that's where these guys really start to take off. And I think that after a bad 2025 for some of those guys, there could be a lot of value on someone like Sandy Alcantara I mentioned here in 2026, being able to bank on them returning to that pre-injury form.
Yeah, and for a guy like Alcantara, who knows where the Marlins are going to be this summer, but that he's somebody that a lot of teams are going to be interested in acquiring at the trade deadline. Thought that was going to be the case last year, and it wasn't. But yeah, I do like injury bounce back cases, because so many times players are like out of sight, out of mind. I mean, look at Shane McClanahan, who's, been out, who, has been in and out for so long. At one point was a bona fide Cy Young candidate every single year. I mean, I think I was betting him every single year to win the Cy Young, right? And you're like, oh, well, you know what? Like, people just forget about how good that player was in their time. Now, McClanahan made one start already this year. He went 4 2/3 innings and he gave up 3 runs. I think as the season progresses and he starts to settle in, we might get the Shane O'Mac that we're used to seeing. So I do think there's value in players that are returning from long injuries.
Yep, I agree with you. I think that Shane McClanahan, maybe in the first month of the season, you stay away a little bit because he's probably not going to be the guy that we all know and love quite yet. But as the season rounds into form, and especially in his case, 2027, I think he'll be back in full force as well. So I agree with you on that front. And Scott, I know you're doing a great job on the baseball front. You do some hockey. You're getting set for the NFL draft. You do a little bit of everything here at VSiN. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, always hit me up on Twitter at Scott's On Air, and you can catch me on VSiN on Cashing Out on Saturday nights, Live Bet Sunday on Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening. We love doing the live betting on the show. And then also check out my website, betterday.com, BETTORDAY, betterday.com. There's a daily podcast and newsletter component as well that you can sign up for. And obviously the podcast, you can listen wherever for free, obviously. We have a lot of tools and resources available on the website for Major League Baseball. We have a completely interactive game center with player prop projections that will start to get sharper as we get more data for the 2026 season. So really looking forward to seeing some of the projections that it spits out once we have like full StatCast data for the first 25 games or so of the Major League Baseball season. Yeah, so check out everything that I'm up to over at betterday.com. As I mentioned, always on Twitter at Scott's On Air. And I'll talk to you this weekend here on VSiN.
Absolutely. Scott doing such amazing work here at the network. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights and did so once again today. So big thanks to Scott for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Scott Seidenberg. He does such great work here at VSiN with so many of our weekend shows. I know that when folks take vacation during the summertime, he becomes our utility man here at the network, hosting so many different shows, breaking down so many different sports, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. So big thanks to Scott for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter /X feed at GNet_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, the American League games in time order, and then the Interleague games are at the bottom in time order, with one exception. We now have a double dip between the Brewers and the Royals. I will just do both of those games together for just simplicity. So how about if we start things off with 951, 952 on the card. It is the Dodgers on the road against the Washington Nationals. Jake Irvin goes for the Nats, and you've got Tyler Glasnow on the bump for the Dodgers. Mondo minus 270 to minus 295 favorites. If you're looking to lay a run half, between minus 165 to minus 184 is that number. And then for the Nationals, you're getting them between plus 218 to plus 240. 9.5 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120. The overs between even and minus 105. And I was willing to go up to a minus 170 on the Dodgers run line. Jake Irvin was not great last year. A 5.70 ERA. Fielding independent, very much in line with that. He's not a strikeout artist, as he was getting fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings last year, and, well, he was certainly giving up the deep ball with 1.9 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings, just not amazing there. And then for Glasnow, he did give up quite a few walks last season. His walks per 9 rate was hovering in that neighborhood of about 4.1, 4.2 or so, but he still has really good swing and miss stuff. He was getting 10.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 3.18 ERA, so this guy's very rock solid. And for the LA Dodgers, they did a nice job getting into the bullpen yesterday because Miles Mikolas is just absolutely terrible for the Washington Nationals. And not like this is a great Washington Nationals bullpen anyway. You had to use up the long guys and Andre Granillo along with as well Ken Waldichuk yesterday, so going to be looking at a lot of Cino Perez, Clayton Beeter, Cole Henry, a whole bunch of guys that had north of a 4 ERA last season. Offense isn't the world's worst for the Nationals, but Keibert Ruiz has never really been able to take off. Joey Weimer's off to a nice start to the season, pair of home runs, hitting above a 500. Dallin Lyle is a young guy with some upside. CJ Abrams last year, 20-plus bombs. He's able to move the line. What are you going to be able to get out of Brady House? I think that he has a little bit of upside, but Nasim Nunez has yet to be able to come along for the ride. And James Wood was their main man last year with 30-plus bombs, hitting over a 250, and he's been off to a rough start to the season thus far. Dodgers did score just 23 runs in their first 6 games of the season before an explosion yesterday. They are dealing with the injury to Tommy Edman, but looks like they're back online. Will Smith definitely getting jiggy with it. He's already got a pair of home runs this season. Last year, he was providing a 400 on base. You got Shohei Ohtani, who he always gives you 40-plus bombs. He always hits for like above a 375 on base. Andy Paz, Teoscar Hernandez don't draw a lot of walks, but these guys are good for 25-plus home runs. Kyle Tucker a little bit shaky in his first few games with the Dodgers, but it looks like he's back online as well. And for the Dodgers bullpen, I think that's going to be great. Alex Vesia, Jack Dreher had a sub-325 ERA last season. Tanner Scott last year was shaky, but 2 years ago in 2024, in his time between the Marlins and the Padres, he posted up a 175 ERA. And then I like the fact that they bring in Edwin Diaz as a closer, so I think the Dodger domination here. So I'm total an 8.9, like the under, and I'm willing to lay up to a minus 170 on that Dodgers run line. 9:53 and 9:54 on the card. It is the Bravos, and they're going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Atlanta Braves. Bryce Elder hopes to not look elderly for the Bravos, and you've got Michael Soroka, who's going to be on the bump for Arizona. And Arizona does find themselves as a very slim favorite in some spots, anywhere between a minus 105 to a minus 110. For the Braves, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, with a total of 9.5 over and under, both at minus 110. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, set them at a minus 118. So I'm going to be willing to roll with them on the money line. I just don't trust in Bryce Elder whatsoever. He looked a little bit better towards the back half of the season last year, but still was supplying the team with about a 5.30 ERA. He was giving up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings last season. Not a strikeout guy as well, was getting fewer than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings a season ago, so I do think that he's in for yet another relatively rough season there. And then on the flip side for Michael Soroka, felt like he was just a little bit unlucky last year. 4.52 ERA, but a 4.23 fielding independent. 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, was giving up about 1.3 or so home runs per 9 innings, but he's now backed up by a lineup that was number 4 in the big leagues in terms of run creation last year. Do recognize that they're dealing with some injuries. Pavin Smith just landed on the injury list. Jordan Lawler is a guy that I like. He's now on the injury list, and you do have 2 guys in Carlos Santana and Nolan Arenado that look just washed at this point, but Jose Fernandez has had a really nice start to the season. Young 22-year-old from Venezuela who's giving you a pair of home runs. Gabriel Moreno does a great job of moving the line along. Geraldo Perdomo. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte always gives you 25-plus bombs. Corbin Carroll does as well, and Marte is always good for about a 350 on base as well. Now, the issue that you've got for the Diamondbacks is his bullpen. It's not good. They pick up Taylor Clark in the offseason. Actually spent some time with both the Snakes and the Royals. Last year posted up a sub-350 ERA. Jonathan Loaizaga, I always thought had some upside with the Yankees, but man, he's never really been able to put it together at the big league level, so we'll see if he's able to do so this season. Ryan Thompson, when he's not injured, he's solid, but he has dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career, so it is a roll of the dice bullpen. And I will say for the Braves, Tyler Kinley, ever since they picked him up from the Colorado Rockies, he's posted up a sub-225 ERA for them. Robert Suarez has been solid in the bullpen, and for the Atlanta Braves, they had that 17 spot that they put up on Thursday. I don't know if they ever get back to that 2023 form when they were getting 5.75 runs per game, but Mauricio Dubon is off to a really nice start to the season. Dom Smith has a pair of home runs. Matt Olson, he, back in 2023, had 54 home runs, 29 the last 2 seasons, so we'll see if he gets back online. Ron Acuna Jr. has struggled to start the season. He'll be able to pick it up sooner rather than later, and getting back Austin Riley at full health is big, but again, I think that Bryce Elder gets lit up in this start, so I do think they get a higher scoring game. Semi-total 9.6. I do like this total over, and for the Braves, I set them at a plus 118, so minus 117 or better. That's my buy point on the Diamondbacks money line. 9:55, 9:56 on the card. It is the Philadelphia Phillies on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phillies. Right now, it's listed as to be determined for the Rockies. Few places have posted up an initial opener with the Rockies at about a plus 188, plus 190, minus 225 is the money line price of the Phillies. If you're looking to lay a run half, that's right now minus 140, and total is 10. The over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. Willing to go up to a minus 153 on the Phillies run line. It's looking like it should be Jose Quintana, and if it's not Jose Quintana, it's not going to be anyone better. So just feel safe in that, because yeah, it was rough for the Colorado Rockies yesterday. Michael Lorenzen became a human pinata. He got absolutely destroyed, and I mean, if you do get Quintana in this, he last season posted up a respectable 3.96 ERA for the Brewers, but he wasn't pitching at elevation, and he was really stinking lucky. A 481 fielding independent. He was getting just 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.2 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. I think that he's going to be in for a rough season, and Jesus Luzardo was one of the most unlucky pitchers in all baseball last year. 3.92 ERA, but a 2.90 fielding independent. He was giving up only 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Really toilet bowl towards the back half of the season, and I do think that he might be in for a little bit of a rough go of it this year as well. First start of the season, gives up 6 runs in 6 innings. I don't know if he's like tipping pitches or something like that, but I mean, it's been not great for him. And for the Colorado Rockies, they do have some upside in this lineup. They're going to be relying upon a lot of young guns to be able to form around Hunter Goodman, who was good for the team last year, 25 home runs. And as we know with the Rockies, typically they see their on-base percentage rise by about 70 points when they're at home versus away from home. They've got the big home and road splits because obviously when you play at elevation, everything is better there. A guy like a Brenton Doyle last year was pretty solid at home while he couldn't do anything away from home. I mean, the same goes for Mickey Moniak, who I believe is still dealing with a little bit of an injury, but I mean, diving in on someone like a Brenton Doyle, for example, last season when he was at home, he was hitting a 306. He had a $162 away from home. That's how much Coors Field is really able to elevate you. So these young guys like Kyle Karros, CJ Rumfield, I think are going to have some success here. And for the Rockies, the bullpen honestly looks a little bit better. Juan Mejia, Jimmy Erget, Zach Ognos, these are guys that had a sub 450 ERA last season. Victor Vodnik is a respectable closer, and for the Phillies, after love what Yohan Duran is able to bring to the table, he's such a good closer for this team. They're dealing with the injury to Ryan Kirkering, but you've got Brad Keller, who posted up a sub-3 ERA last year for the Cubs, so it's looking a little bit shakier, and Jose Alvarado, he might just be a lost cause at this point, but Phillies bats certainly got online yesterday. You had Bryce Harper be able to get a second home run of the campaign. It's looking better for Kyle Schwarber now that they were able to put up a big number on the Philadelphia Phillies. Most of that damage was done very early on during the game, but I mean, being able to get these guys to just be able to get online now. Adolis Garcia is hitting above 300 after he was miserable the last few seasons with the Rangers. Brandon Marsh is doing a nice job moving the line, and then their young guy Justin Crawford looks to be very encouraging as well. So I do think that the Phillies go out there, dominate this game, and I think they get some scoring. Set by total at 7.7, so 10.5 or less, like the over, and with the Phillies willing to lay up to a minus 152 on that run line. 957, 958 on the card. The Mets are on the road against the Giants. Landon Roop goes for the Giants, and Clay Holmes is on the bump for the Giants, and the Giants who find themselves as a underdog here of between plus 106 to a plus 110, seeing a plus 120 out there as well. Anywhere between minus 124 to a minus 130 is that number on the Mets. 7.5 is the total. Overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. Unders between minus 110 to even money. And with the Mets, set them at a minus 119. So that plus 120 mark is my buy point here on San Francisco for Clay Holmes. He was very effective last year as a starter. He's not much of a swing and miss guy. Last year, he was getting only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. To his credit, he does a nice job in terms of limiting the deep balls. 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but 3.6 walks per 9 in his first start of the season. Gave up 2 runs at 5 2/3 innings, relatively respectable there, but did give up the 5 walks as well. And Landon Roop was absolutely dealing in his first start of the season. I think that he's got a lot of upside. Last season for the Giants, and really his first main year as a starter for this squad, he was posting up about a 391 fielding dependent. He does give up his walks as well, 3.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, but allowed just 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. And the Giants were actually 4th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA last season. Now, do I think that it's going to be a mainstay? Most likely not, but that said, you do have a few guys in this bullpen that are relatively solid. They're going to need to find a way to be able to fill in for Jose Buto being on the injured list, but that said, you've got a guy, Matt Gage, who has been pretty solid for this bullpen. Ryan Walker is going to need to figure it out. He has not been great, to say the least, but Caleb Killian, he comes over from the Cubs. He could be a nice long guy. Eric Miller had a sub 225 ERA last season, and it does appear as though the Giants starting to get a little bit more online with their offense after the first few series of the season was a little bit rough. Luis Arias is always good for hitting at 300, so he's going to be a nice table setter. Eloy Ramos, Harrison Bader out there in the outfield have gone off to a rough start. Heck, for that matter, Jung-Woo Lee, all 3 guys entered into yesterday, hitting below 200. You know that things are going to stabilize there. And Ramos, last 2 seasons, 22 plus home runs out of him. Willie Adames just not great at moving the line since he got to San Francisco. And we'll say Rafael Devers just has not been what the Giants have hoped for power to this point. And then on the flip side for the New York Mets, a little bit shaky for them to start the season. You know what you're going to get out of Juan Soto. He provided last year 43 home runs, nearly a 400 on base, so he's good for that. And I like the pickup of Ori Polanco. A little bit of a slow start to the season, but he's reaching base. Last year, over 25 home runs for the Mariners, but have to have my question marks with a few of the guys that they brought in. Marcus Semien just was never good for the Rangers, so that's a little bit of an issue. Luis Robert is looking great. Looks like he just needed to get the heck out of Chicago, so that's been good. Francisco Alvarez has been pretty solid at the catcher spot, and for the Mets, they no longer have Edwin Diaz in the bullpen, but Devin Williams is starting to look like the Devin Williams of old after Pete Alonso stole his soul. Luke Weaver has been very solid for the team. Brooks Raley, I like him in the bullpen, but two of my issues with Holmes, I do think that both of these pitchers might knock themselves out of the start a little bit early with the walk. So I told 7.7 here at the 7.5, like the over, and with the Giants plus 120 or better, we'll take a shot on them on the money line. 959, 960 on the card. It is the White Sox. They are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays. It is expected to be Anthony Kay as a bulk guy, but opener here is going to be Grant Taylor for the White Sox, and Mason Fluharty goes for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays find themselves anywhere between minus 154 to minus 160 favorites, plus 130 to plus 150 is that number on the White Sox. Total is 8.5. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 110. I'm going to take the plus 150 here with the White Sox, set them at a plus 148. It was expected to be Eric Lauer making the start for the Blue Jays, but he is out due to illness, so Fluharty, he is most likely going to be an opener here. A guy that's capable of being able to give you maybe 2 innings, but for the Blue Jays, this is going to be a wholesale approach. Right now, they are down so bad with their pitching that they had to sign Patrick Corbin on Friday because Cody Ponce, the Ponceation, he went down with a little bit of an injury, and this Blue Jays bullpen has not been good this far this season. They are right now supplying an ERA that is well above a 5, as we have seen Yimi Garcia remain on the injured list. Jeff Hoffman had to be used up yesterday. Braden Fisher, he's been relatively solid in the bullpen. I like Louis Varland, but these long guys are just not cutting it for the team right now. For the Blue Jays, I think that this offense is going to be just fine. Kazuma Okamoto, who they brought in during the offseason, he's already given them a pair of home runs. Jesus Sanchez, I thought, was a pretty nice pickup in the offseason. They're going to need to get him going a little bit more with the power, but he's been moving the line. He's been solid. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is right now stuck on 0 home runs. Last year, he hit for a relatively good average, but during the regular season, just 23 home runs before the eruption in the postseason. And George Springer has been able to give you some home runs, not really hitting for a lot of average, but you know that is coming sooner rather than later. And then 4K, who's going to be the ultimate bulk guy here. He had a relatively good first start against the Milwaukee Brewers. Went out there for 4 2/3 innings. He did walk 4, but he allowed 2 runs when he was over in the Nippon Baseball League in Japan last year. Was posting up a sub-2 ERA. Not a great swing and miss guy, but someone that does a good job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard. Now this White Sox bullpen is just absolutely dreadful. Like, Sean Newcomb should not be on a big league mound. Sir Anthony Dominguez is your closer. That's not a place where you want to be. The corpse of Jordan Hicks is right now not looking great, so yeah, that's not good to say the least, but I actually do like this lineup. Edgar Quero, this guy that's able to hit above a 275. Montaka Murakami has already given you 3 home runs this season. Andrew Benintendi had a 20-plus homer season last year. I like the pickup of Austin DeSay's kid. Colson Montgomery last year was able to put up 21 home runs. Not necessarily the world's greatest in terms of hitting for average, but you do have a White Sox team that had Miguel Vargas go off for 6 RBI a few days ago. And for the White Sox, they're one of the best teams in terms of not striking out in all of baseball. So in what is going to be a bullpen game for the Blue Jays, I'm going to take the plus 150 on the White Sox money line. Semi-total 9.1 as well, so I'm going to be in on the over. 961, 962 on the card. It is the Astros, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Athletics, as Luis Morales is on the bump for the Athletics, and Tatsuya Amai is on the bump for Houston. And Houston does find themselves as a favorite here of anywhere between minus 112 to a minus 118, minus 102 to minus 105. That number on the Athletics. 10 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even, and set a total of 9.7. I am in on the under. Now for Imai, he had a rough first start at the big league level, but I think that he's going to find it sooner rather than later. You take a look at what he was able to do in the Nippon Baseball League for the Seibu Lions, and he was absolutely tremendous for them last season. He was supplying about a $1.92 ERA, giving up 0.3 home runs per 9 innings. Pretty good strikeout pitcher for being out there in Japan as well. It's hard to be able to get strikeouts when you're out there in the country of Japan, but he was able to do a solid job there. And Luis Morales is actually coming off of a really nice nice year last year for the Athletics. He was able to get the walks down towards the back half of the season for his career overall, if you include his first start here in 2026, a career 3.74 ERA. Fielding independent is more around a 5.21 because he does give up the deep ball, 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but a little bit over 8 punch outs per 9 innings. He's gotten the walks back down to 3.5 walks per 9 innings, and he faces off against an Astros lineup that last year was a little bit pedestrian. Really found it in the back half of the series against the Angels and into that Boston series as well. It does look like Yordan Alvarez is back, and he's back in full force. He's already got 3 home runs this season. Jose Altuve is hitting above a 300. Carlos Correa, welcome back home after Minnesota. That experiment did not work for him. He's been able to do a nice job here. Now, the bottom of the lineup has some question marks. Jake Myers, Bryce Matthews, those young outfielders are really hitting well. Cam Smith as well. Christian Walker. He's moving the line right now, not giving it a ton of power, but he's finding a way on base. That's good enough for the Astros. And then for the Athletics, you've got a lineup that really had a rough go of it in their first road trip, but I think coming back home, where in Sacramento the ball absolutely flies, is big. Shea Langeliers, well, Shea banged for 5 home runs in the first 6 games of the season, but I'm going into yesterday, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Kurtz were all hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. These are all guys that hit 20 plus home runs and all hit above a 250 last season. You know that they're going to be all picking up. Lawrence Butler has been iffy in terms of moving the line over the last few seasons, but Denzel Clark, I think, has some upside towards the bottom of that lineup. Now for the Athletics, this is a bullpen that is not good, to say the least. Justin Sterner provided about a 4 ERA last season. Scott Barlow looks washed. Mark Leiter Jr. has never really been good, so that's a little bit of an issue, to say the least. Hogan Harris, he was pretty solid for the team last 2 seasons. A combined less than 3.25 ERA the last 2 campaigns. I actually trusted him. JT Ginn as a long guy's not necessarily a place where you want to be, but I do think that in the end, the Astros are going to be able to get a relatively good start out of EMI. For the Athletics, the offense has been slow in terms of getting going, so set my total 9.7 like the under, and for the Astros, we'll delay up to a minus 121 on that money line, especially with the bullpen still being solid as well. You've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu. These guys are able to give you sub 350 ERA. Still dealing with the injury to Josh Hader and Bennett Sosa, but I do think that Stephen Okert and company and AJ Bluebaugh, being a really good long guy, gets the job done here. So we'll delay the Astros on the money line up to a minus 121, and like the 10 under, set my total 9.7. 963, 964 on the card. The Rays are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Mick Abel is on the bump for the Twins, and Steven Matz goes for the Rays. And the Rays do find themselves as a bit of an underdog here. Anywhere between even money to minus 110, between minus 110 to a minus 115 is that number on Minnesota. 7.5 is the total. The over is anywhere between minus 125 to minus 105. And then the under, that is anywhere between plus 105 to minus 115. And right now with the Twins, I set them at a plus 133. I'm going to be willing to roll with the Rays, as you had a renaissance here for Steven Matz last season. His command was so good. He wasn't really giving up the deep ball too much. Not much of a strikeout artist last season, but still was able to supply the 2 teams that he was with, the Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals, with a 3.05 ERA. He was giving up 0.9 home runs, 1.3 walks per 9 innings, while only getting about 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. But love what I saw there. And for Mick Abel, he just has not been able to find it at the big league level. He got dealt midseason from the Philadelphia Phillies, and he's someone that throughout his career has had a 6.80 ERA. Now that has a 5.05 fielding dependent, so he's been a little bit unlucky at swinging his stuff. 9 strikeouts per 9 innings throughout his MLB career, but 4.3 walks, 1.7 home runs allowed per 9 innings. And let's call it what it is. This is not a Minnesota Twins bullpen that is necessarily the most trustworthy in the world. It's not the world's worst. Like, Cody Funderburk is okay, Justin Topa's okay, but they had to use up a lot of bullpen pieces after Bailey Ober only went 4 innings yesterday, so it's a little bit of a tax bullpen there. Eric Gorze had to throw 37 pitches yesterday. And for the Minnesota Twins, if they're going to win games, they're probably going to need to do so with just raw horsepower. You've got Byron Buxton still stuck on 0 home runs. You know that that's coming sooner rather than later. Royce Lewis has not really moved the line, but he's already got a pair of home runs for the team. You have the likes of Cody Clemens, Matt Wallner last year at 20 plus home runs for the team, but both hit below at 230, so they're going to need a little bit more there, but they're getting a lot out of Trevor Larnach right now, so I like this offense. And for the Rays, they were in the upper half of the big leagues last year in terms of runs per game, and the offense hasn't been a problem. They're averaging about 5 runs per game. I think it might be down to 4.9 after yesterday, but Jake Fraley, Johnny DeLuca are hitting above a 300. You've had a nice pickup in the offseason. They went to the Mariners and they picked up Ben Williamson. He's a guy that's right now moving the line for the team. And then Junior Caminero had 44 bombs last season. Yandy Diaz, he's always good for a 375 on base and 20 plus home runs. But this Rays bullpen is out officially absolutely terrible. They're posting up an ERA above a 9. Kevin Kelly came into the game yesterday and just absolutely yacked jacked all over himself. Griffin Jax is getting all sorts of jacked up right now. Brian Baker is not trustworthy. Cole Soldier is not trustworthy. Mason Engler is not trustworthy. Like, you go down the list and there's nobody that you trust in this bullpen, especially with Garrett Clevenger now on the injured list. So do think that the Rays do a nice job getting to the Twins bullpen. I do think that you get a nice start out of Steven Matz to be able to avoid as much of this bullpen as humanly possible. That's why I do think that the Rays do find a way to be able to get the job done here, set them at a minus 133, like them on the money line, and I like the over. I did set my total here at an 8.1, 965, 966. It is the Seattle Mariners that are going to be on the road against the LA Angels. Jack Kachanowicz is on the bump for the Halos, and Emerson Hancock is on the bump for the Mariners. Mariners do find themselves as good size favorites here of anywhere between minus 156 and minus 168, between plus 139 to a plus 145 is that number on the Halos. 9.5 is the total. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120. Overs between even and minus 105. If you're looking to lay run half with the Mariners, that's between even money to plus 105. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 104 on the run line. So even money or better, I'm going to be looking at the Mariners. Now, Emerson Hancock has yet to put it together for like an amazing MLB career or anything like that. Looked good in his first start of the season. He went 6 no-hit innings, punched out 9. I don't know if that's going to be a mainstay after he had a 4.90 ERA last season. The big thing for him is that he was never really able to generate punch-outs for his career, less than 3 walks per 9 innings. So, I mean, he's got relatively good control, and I trusted him a whole heck of a lot more than I trusted Jack Kachanowicz, who was absolutely awful last season. Jack Kachanowicz just has not put it together, and I have no idea why he's on a big league mound right now. 6.81 ERA last season, giving up 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, 5.8 strikeouts on 4.7 walks per 9 innings. He doesn't get strikeouts, and he doesn't have any command. Like, what are we doing here? He had 5 walks in 4 innings in his first start of the season this year. Like, how are the Angels unable to find a better arm than Jack Kachanowicz? Like, good grief. And then the bullpen of the Angels, shock, surprise, surprise, is not great. Ben Joyce, Kirby Yates are on the injured list. They do pick up Drew Pomeranz, who I actually like that pickup, but he's been awful with his team. It's as if you put on an Angels uniform and you can't pitch out of the bullpen. That was what is happening here. Jordan Romano had a north of 80 ERA last season. Chase Silseth, he's not the answer. Ryan Seferian is awful, so that's an issue now for the Angels. They were 4th in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis last season. They do lose the likes of Taylor Ward, but they've got Joe Adell back, who set fire to the rain with over 30 home runs last season. He also provided less than a 310 on base, so they don't have a lot of guys that move the line, because even though they were 4th in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, they were also bottom 5 in terms of on-base percentage. Mike Trout is looking like he's the Mike Trout of old once again. Pair of home runs to start off the season. You like to see that. And Nolan Schunel is a guy that's able to move the line. He had 2 home runs in the first 7 games of the season. I like Zach Neto, but Yoel Moncada looks washed. Josh Lowe, I like the pickup in the offseason. He has yet to be able to find it yet, and Logan Hoppe had like a 265 on base last season, so big time issues there. And for the Angels, they have to go up against a Seattle Mariners lineup that last year was 2nd in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home, with about 5.1 runs per contest. Now, Julio Rodriguez always starts slow, and he's off to a rough start. Cal Raleigh entered the yesterday with 0 home runs. You know that those guys are going to pick it up, and even with those guys struggling, Brendan Donovan has done a really nice job coming over from St. Louis. Pair of home runs. He's hitting it relatively well. Victor Robles has some nice wheels. They've been able to get something from the bottom of the lineup from Cole Young as well. And for the Mariners, this is one of the better bullpens that you're going to find in all baseball. Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, both of these guys had sub-3 ERA last season. Gabe Spire had a sub-3 ERA. Edward Bazardo is pretty solid in that bullpen as well. So do think that the Mariners go out there, they find their offense against Kachanowicz, and I think that Emerson Hancock might be in for a nice season here. So my total at a 9.2 at the 9.5. I do like the under, and I do like the Mariners laying a run half on this run line. 967, 968. The St. Louis Cardinals are on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Yeah, Jack Flaherty's on the bump for Detroit. Dustin May goes for St. Louis. St. Louis is between plus 132 to plus 140 underdogs, seeing plus 150 out there as well. And then you're getting between minus 155 to minus 170 on Detroit. 7.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. And for the Tigers on the money line, I set them at a minus 162. If you're looking to lay around half with them, you're getting as high as a plus 142 right now, and I'm going to take that run line. I set mine at a plus 121 with Jack Flaherty. He certainly did give up the deep ball last year with about 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but Jack Flaherty still has relatively good swing and miss stuff, and I believe that he was relatively unlucky last season. He was posting up an ERA about a 4.64, but closer to a 3.85 fielding dependent with his 10.5 strikeouts at 3.3 walks per 9 innings. And for Dustin May, he's just dealt with so many injuries throughout his career. I don't know if he's ever going to be that guy that we were hoping that he would be. Last season, 4.96 ERA with a 4.88 fielding dependent, 3.8 walks, 1.4 home runs allowed. allowed per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a Cardinals bullpen that has been very suspect this year. Both of these teams currently outside the top 20 with regards to our bullpen right now. I do think that these guys are going to be able to get it straightened out. Like Riley O'Brien, Jojo Romero last year were both posting up a sub 350 ERA. I recognize that Matt Savanson didn't have the biggest sample size, but he had a sub 2 ERA last season, and he's really struggled to begin the season. But also for the Cardinals, I do think that some of these young guys are starting to find it. Ivan Herrera last year had north of a 350 on base, a little bit of a slow start to the season here, but Victor Scott, Jordan Walker, these are guys that are moving the line. I don't know if they're going to have supreme power, but they're clearly showing that they've got a little bit of pop. J.J. Weatherholt already has a game-winning hit to his credit. Ramon Urias, I thought was a nice shrewd pickup. Not necessarily a bullish on Nolan Gorman, because even though he'll probably hit for 20-plus home runs this season, he's a guy that just strikes out a ton and doesn't really move the line. And then for the Detroit Tigers, 1 through 9 is just a really good lineup in general. Like Coke Keith is going to be able to move the line, probably give you like 20 home runs. Parker Meadows can sometimes be up and down, but Javi Baez was really able to straighten things out last season. Spencer Torkelson, 30-plus home runs last season. Dylan Dingler is a pretty good power hitter that's able to move the line. You've got Kevin McGonigal, who has yet to really hit for a lot of power, but he's doing a great job finding way on base. And for the Tigers, it's been a rough start to the season for their bullpen, but likes of Kyle Finnegan, Brian Herter, Will Vessel had a sub 375 ERA last season. Tyler Holden had a little bit of an up-down season, and the fact that they've got Kenley Jansen as their closer is not great, to say the least, but I do think that they're able to get a nice lead here, jump all aboard Dustin May and get the job done. So my total on an 8.3, I like the over, and I'm willing to lay the run line of the Tigers. Won't take anything above a plus 122. 969, 970. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates, and they are going to be on the road facing off against the Baltimore Orioles, as the Wizard of Boz, Shane Baz, is on the bump for the Orioles, and hopefully I get this one correct, as you've got Carmen Mujinski on the bump for the Pittsburgh Pirates. That is a Polish name, and right now with the Pirates, you're going to be finding them in a relatively pick'em game. They're a slight underdog between even money to minus 105, minus 110 to minus 115. That number on Baltimore with a total of 8.5. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And with the Orioles, I set them at a minus 129. I'm willing to lay the money line with Mujinski. Hopefully I got that correct again. He was really good coming out of the bullpen last year. 2.15 bullpen ERA, but that ERA shot up to a 4.99 when he was a starter. Had a relatively okay first start of the season. 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. I just think that he's a really good long guy, and I just don't know what he is as a starter at this point. They're trying to be able to stretch him out for his career. Gets about 8.5 strikeouts at 3 walks per 9 innings. It does a nice job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard, but it does feel like sometimes he does get a little bit pitch happy, knocks himself out of starts early, and then for Shane Baz was a relatively miserable end of the season for him last year. 4.87 ERA, but a 4.37 fielding dependent. Does give up the deep ball a little bit more than what you'd like. 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings last season, but did get his strikeout stuff back up to about 9.5 punch-outs per 9 innings, and now he's season 3 coming off of major surgery, so I think that he's going to be able to find it. And for the Orioles, they now have a nice closer in Ryan Helsley, who he obviously was terrible with the New York Mets, but was solid all throughout his career with the St. Louis Cardinals. He looks good this season. Tyler Wells, they're going to be trotting out there as a long guy. I don't know about him, and if they could get Yunier Cano back to where he was a few seasons ago, that'll be big, because I like Rico Garcia in this bullpen as well. Now for the Orioles, already dealing with injuries, Jordan Westberg, Jackson Holiday, both of these guys are on the injured list, but Gunnar Henderson, Taylor Ward, these are 2 guys that should be able to give you some pop. Henderson already a pair of home runs, and Ward at 30-plus home runs with the Angels last season. Adley Rutschman, after a miserable season last year, not hitting for a lot of power, but he's doing a better job in terms of moving the line thus far this season. The young guys like Colton Cowser, Dylan Beavers have your question marks there, and Samuel Basayo has had great signs thus far, but he has yet to really be able to put it together. He's not been able to consistently get on base, and for the Pirates, last year they were dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Should not be this year. Ryan O'Hearn, over a 350 on base between his time with the Orioles and the San Diego Padres. He's got functional power. Marcell Ozuna, the last few seasons with the Atlanta Braves, did a nice job finding a way to be able to reach base, and last season he was able to supply 21 home runs. The year before that was up to about 39, so I mean, he's going to be a big cog for this lineup as well. Now, the catcher spot with Henry Davis, Joey Bart, that's a little bit of an issue. Spencer Horwitz have my question marks there, and O'Neal Cruz is clearly able to hit for power. He's already got 3 home runs, but last year was hitting right around about a 200. Connor Griffin, they call him up, and I think that he's going to be in for a nice season. And for the Pirates, they've got some nice pieces in the bullpen. Justin Lawrence, a sub 2 ERA last season in a small sample size. Mason Montgomery, Isaac Manson are solid. Gregory Soto at the closer spot is terrible. Hunter Barco is just barking up runs. I mean, man, that's not great. Yohan Ramirez, I don't really trust in him, so I do think that the Orioles do find a way to get to Mujinski and get a relatively good start here out of Boz as well. This is a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark, so some might tell it at 8.2 here at the 8.5. I do like the under, and for the Orioles, willing to lay up to a minus 128 on that money line. 971, 972 on the card. It's the Padres. They're going to be on the road against the Boston Red Sox. Connolly Early is on the bump for Boston, and Randy Vasquez is on the bump for San Diego. San Diego does find themselves anywhere between plus 116 to plus 130 underdogs. Meanwhile, for Boston, between minus 136 and minus 150 is what you're laying there. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8, overs between minus 110 to a minus 120. Unders between even and minus 110. On the 8.5, unders minus 125, and the overs plus 105. And I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the over. I set my total 9.1. Connolly Early at a small sample size at the big league level thus far, but in his small sample size of starts, this guy has been absolutely tremendous. 5 career starts, so again, don't take it as like end-all be-all, but 12.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.19 ERA in his 5 regular season starts, 0 home runs allowed, and for Randy Vasquez, he was so fortunate last year. 3.84 ERA, but a 4.85 fielding dependent, 3.5 walks to 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, outdazzled in his first start of the season here this year, but do have to still have some question marks there. And for the Red Sox, I know that they were acting as if the sky was falling after the first 2 series of the season. Looked a little bit better yesterday, and I think that you're going to get good offense out of this team. Last season, they were a top 6 team in terms of run creation. Now, the bullpen is a little bit down with Garrett Woodlock on paternity leave. Congratulations to him, but Giovanni Morin is a nice piece. Danny Kalum last year at a sub-3 ERA. Justin Slayton 2 years ago was really dominant, and Aroldis Chapman is right now looking like the best closer in all baseball. And then when it comes to this offense, Wilson Contreras, they bring him on over from the St. Louis Cardinals, obviously up there in years, but even last year was still providing over 20 home runs at a 344 on base. You've got a guy that I think is in for a big year in Ceddanne Rafaela. He's a young 25-year-old who's hitting for a little bit more average, showed some functional power last season. Trevor Story, 25 plus bombs last season, and Roman Anthony is not too much of a home run hitter, but does a great job moving the line, getting on base. Masataka Yoshida is able to be a nice platoon piece for this infield as well. And then on the flip side of things, you've got a San Diego Padres team that has Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr. These guys will give you a 350 on base, still for 25 plus home runs. Kevin Sheets was relatively soft for the team, and they had a tough time the last few seasons with finding a good hitting catcher. Freddie Fermin, I think, really checks that box as well. Ramon Laureano, Jackson Merrill, these guys out there in the outfield should be able to get on base. And Laureano, along with Jake Cronenworth, both had down years last year. I think that they're going to be a little bit better this year. And to the credit of the San Diego Padres, number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA last season, deal with the injury to Jason Adam, but Adrian Morejon is able to give you multiple innings, sub-3 ERA last season. Jeremiah Estrada has been very shaky to start the season. Love Mason Miller, but Ron Marinaccio, who I typically like, he's been off to a little bit of a rough year to start with as well. David Morgan looks to be pretty solid out there in the bullpen, but I think that Randy Vasquez is going to get lit up in this start, especially out there at Fenway. So set a total of a 9.1, like the over. And with the Red Sox, I'm going to take the chalkier money line. Something about a minus 165 on the money line. Would rather have that money line rather than the run line with the good Padres bullpen. 973, 974, it's the Brewers and the Royals, and they're going to be doing battle for a double dip. The first game is going to be 973, 974. This is going to be the early game, and this is expected to be Chad Patrick versus Luinder Avila. And then we'll go game number 2 after that. That'll be 981. 982 with Brandon Sproat going up against Seth Lugo. Right now, the numbers for Patrick versus Avila with the Royals, when this was taken off the board, they were finding themselves right around about even money to plus 105, minus 110 to minus 117. That number on the Brewers with a total of 9. And if we get those similar numbers when this gets reposted in the AM, I'm going to be willing to roll with the Brewers up to a minus 114 on the money line. With Chad Patrick, he was getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and I do think that there's quite a bit of upside with him moving forward. He had a rough year at the back half of the season last year, and he was giving up about 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but did a nice job in terms of keeping the ball in the yard. First start of the season here this year, 4 1/3 innings, allowed just 1 run, so that's pretty solid, and I just don't have a lot of faith in Luinder Avila at this point. For Luinder Avila, he was able to see a cup of coffee at the big league level last season, came out of the bullpen, and he was relatively solid. He's a starter by trade, but when he was at the AAA level over at Oklahoma City, actually, I think that it was Omaha, I think that he was posting up about a 5 or so ERA. Does give up quite a few walks. Young 24-year-old, I think that he might be good sooner rather than later, but I do think that it's going to be a lot of all hands on deck here for the Kansas City Royals. A Royals team that is, with Carlos Estevez, a really good closer, being on the injury list now. Do like the fact that Daniel Lynch is able to be a nice long guy for the team. Matt Strahm DeGrom is able to give you multiple innings. He comes over from the Phillies. He was always posting up a sub 350 ERA. And then Nick Mears, Lucas Erceg, these guys are solid in the bullpen. For the Royals, they should be better on offense than they were a season ago. Last year, 3.7 runs per game at home, dead last in the big leagues. They moved the fences in the offseason. Carter Jensen, he overslept a few days ago. That was not great to say the least. And he and Jack Caglione really need to figure it out because they have not hit thus far at the big league level. But Vinny Pasquantino, 30 plus home runs last season. Salvador Perez really doesn't find a way to get on base too much anymore, but he still has some functional power. You know what you're going to get out of Bobby Witt Jr. Over a 350 on base, 25 plus home runs. And Isaac Collins doesn't necessarily have for a ton of power, but former Brewers pretty solid. And then for Milwaukee, this team was 25th in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis last season. Not a team that's going to hit a bunch of bombs. They just find a way to be able to small ball you to death. Sal Frelick along with Bryce Terang are going to give you 20 plus stolen bases. They find a way to be able to move the line. William Contreras always good for a 330 plus on base. He's able to give you 20 plus home runs. Same goes for Christian Yelich. And Brandon Lockridge has been really good out there in the outfield for the team as well. Good wheels out of him. They pick up David Hamilton in the offseason. It looks like he's going to be another one of those guys that just finds a way on base. And for the Brewers, this is one of the best bullpens in all of baseball. Jerry Koenig, Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, all able to give you sub 350 ERA. Grant Anderson is able to give you multiple innings. They pick up Anel Zerpa from the Royals, who was a pretty solid long guy for the Royals last season. Posted up about a 4.180 ERA. He's able to eat some innings for you. So I do think that the Brewers should be the favorite in this spot. I did set them more around about a minus 114, so would be willing to lay up to minus 113 in Chatrick versus Avila. And then with this total, I was seeing that at a 9. If we could get a 9 or less, I'll be in on the over. Set by total 9.1. And then when this was listed as Seth Lugo versus Brandon Sproat in game number 2, Royals were opening up about minus 115 to minus 120, seeing a total of an 8.5 out there as well. And if we get that 8.5 and we get a similar money line, I'll be on the Royals in this one. Now, I recognize that Seth Lugo had a really bad fielding independent last season. Last season, he was giving up the deep ball, 1.7 home runs, 3.4 walks per 9 innings. Was lucky to have that 4.15 ERA because he posted up a 5.09 fielding independent, but still, he pitched much better at home. Again, with offenses being moved in, I think that that's going to be an issue, but Brandon Sproat was just absolutely terrible in his Brewers debut. He saw a few starts with the New York Mets a season ago. Young 25-year-old, so he's got some upside, but he gave up 7 runs in 3 innings in his Brewers debut. When he got called up to the Mets last season, he was only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so clearly a work in progress sort of guy. I do think that the Royals are probably going to save quite a few more of their, shall we say, more trustworthy bullpen pieces for this game because I think that they're going to go with more of their long guys with Luinder Avila going, and I do think that the Royals do a nice job getting to Sproat and company. So in this Sproat versus Lugo start, I set the Royals at a minus 152, so I'm going to be willing to lay them on the money line, and I do like this total over, so in on the over on both games. And with Lugo's start, I'm going to take them on the money line. In the Chad Patrick start for the Brewers, game number 1, I will take the Brewers in game number 1 on the money line, so hopefully I kept that straight for you guys. 975, 976. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the New York Yankees as Ryan Weathers is on the bump for the Yankees and Max Meyer goes for Miami. Miami does find themselves as a underdog here between plus 153 to a plus 160 and minus 170 to minus 188. That number on New York, 7.5 to 8 is the total. On the 7.5, overs minus 120, and the unders even. On the 8, unders between minus 110 to a minus 115, unders between minus 105 to a minus 110. And with Max Meyer and the Marlins, set them at a plus 214 on the money line. I'd be willing to lay a number here on the Yankees run line. Right now, I'm finding that between plus 115 to a plus 120, and I'm going to be willing to take that plus money run line. Now, I recognize that Ryan Weathers might run into a little bit of familiarity because he's going up against his old team, but I do think that there's a lot of upside with him. First start of the season, gave up 1 run in 4 1/3 innings, punched out 7. He looked really good there at a career high in strikeouts last season in a small sample size of 8 starts. Just has really dealt with injuries throughout his career. And for Max Meyer, just has never really been able to fully put it together at the big league level. He's got some upside, like last season in his starts for the Miami Marlins, he was getting swings and misses with about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but also has given up a career 1.9 home runs per 9 innings. And now you go up against a New York Yankees team that obviously you've got Aaron Judge, who has had a little bit of a shaky start to the season in terms of moving the line, but he's already got a pair of home runs to his credit. Ben Rice had himself a nice game yesterday. Jazz Chisholm, he's a guy that's able to move the line, draw some walks, and he's able to give you 25 plus home runs as well. Love the pickup of Cody Bellinger, Jared Cabrera. I think is going to be a guy that moves the line for this team. And I mean, with the Yankees, it was mentioned by Scott Seidenberg. You take a look at the starting lineup for this team. All but 3 guys were hitting below the Mendoza line of 200 coming out of that game, and yet they still put up 8 runs yesterday. So this team is going to be very fearsome. For the Miami Marlins, this lineup is revamped. Xavier Edwards, last year hit above a 275. He's really good in terms of finding way on base. Owen Cossey, he's a guy that was a really highly touted prospect for the Cubs. He's hit above a 300 thus far. Liam Hicks has already been able to give you a pair of home runs. He's looking solid. Augustin Ramirez had some good power last season. And for the Miami Marlins, they actually entered into yesterday number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You figured that was going to dry up. Blake Picard got used up for quite a few pitches yesterday, but I love the fact that now they've got Pete Fairbanks as a closer. Probably not going to need him in this game, but Anthony Bender, Calvin Fauché, these are guys that are able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Andrew Nardi is a relatively good long guy. John King was a good pickup from St. Louis. So I do think that for this Marlins team, the bullpen is going to be solid. I just have my question marks here with Max Meyer, and that's a big reason why I'm in on the over. So I total at 8.3, and I'm willing to lay the run line with the Yankees, set them at a minus 114. 977, 978 on the card. It's the Reds. They're going to be on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Rhett Lauder is on the bump for the Reds. Right now it's listed as to be determined for the Texas Rangers. We've seen a few openers with the Rangers being minus 140 to minus 145 favorites, plus 120 to plus 122. That number on the Reds, and a total of 8.5 unders between minus 115 to minus 120. The overs between even and minus 105. Right now the expectation is that Kumar Rocker is going to be making the start here, and if I could get Kumar Rocker on the mound and the Reds at like a plus 125 or so, I would be willing to take a shot on the Reds on the money line. I recognize that Rhett Lauder pretty much missed all of last season due to injury, but this is a guy that I'm actually very excited for. I think that he's got a lot of upside moving forward. Comes on over from Wake Forest, and in the 7 starts that he's made at the big league level thus far, how about a 151 ERA? Not a lot of swing and miss quite yet, but he was really good over at Wake Forest. I think that he's got the goods to be able to put it together, and for Kumar Rocker, he was really just out of sorts last season, to say the least. Just has never been able to figure it out at the big league level. Was so electric over at Vanderbilt, but for his career, 8.3 strikeouts at 3.4 walks per 9 innings, 5.45 ERA with 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Just not something to really get you all jazzed up. And for the Reds, you've got someone in Sal Stewart who's sitting like above a 450 right now. He has been absolutely tremendous for this unit. For the Reds, you've got Eugenio Suarez back as well, who had 49 home runs last season. He's off to a relatively nice start this season. Ellie De La Cruz already has 3 home runs. Dane Myers is not hitting for a ton of power, but he's hitting at 300. If you can get things straightened out with some of those, shall we say, ancillary pieces like Will Benson, Cabrian Hayes, who are off to a slow start to the season, Novoli Marte as well, you're looking at something. And for the Rangers, they revamped their lineup. They let go of a few guys in the offseason. Adolis Garcia was just not panning out for them. Brandon Nimmo sitting well above a 300, along with Andrew McCutchen to begin the season. Jock Peterson just looks to be washed. He doesn't even have a hit this far this season, but Jake Berger is not. He's been able to give you a pair of home runs. He's hitting above a 300. Corey Seager is looking like the Corey Seager of old. So I do think that the Rangers, after they were a bottom 10 offense in terms of run creation last season, they're going to be a little bit better this year. And for the Rangers, they actually were 5th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA last season. Jacob Latz, I believe, should be a starter instead of Kumar Rocker. He's a guy that's able to be a nice long guy. Cole Winn last year had a sub-2 ERA in the bullpen. Chris Martin, Robert Garcia, these guys are solid in the bullpen. Jalen Beeks and Jacob Junis aren't going to post low ERAs, but at the very least, they're innings eaters. And then on the flip side for the Reds, Emilio Pagan is just absolutely terrible. Like, that guy should not be closing out games, but that said, you do have likes of a Sam Moll, Tony Santillan. They had to use both of those guys yesterday, but for fewer than 15 pitches. They're rock solid. Pierce Johnson was good last year with the Braves. He's off to a really rocky start this season. Same goes for Brock and Roll Burke, who came over from the Angels, but I do think that they figure it out a little bit more. Right now, we're not seeing too many openers, but if I could get the Reds at a plus 125 or better, I'd be willing to take them. I set that money line price at a plus 123 and made my total an 8.7, so at the 8.5, I like the over. 979, 980 is how we wrap it up. The Cubs, they're going to be on the road against the Guardians. Slade Cecconi is on the bump for the Guardians, and Shota Imanaga is on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs are between minus 128 to minus 140 favorites, plus 118 to plus 125. Then number on Cleveland with a total of 8. Unders between minus 115 to minus 120. Overs between even and minus 105. And I do like the over. I set my total at an 8.2. Shota Imanaga last year had a relatively respectable ERA, but I think that he is doing for a lot of regression with the way that he doesn't get a lot of swings and misses. Last season, he was only getting about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. To his credit, only 1.6 walks per 9 innings, but 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Had a 486 fielding independent, and this is a Cubs bullpen that just isn't the same as it was a season ago. They did let go of some of those guys, like a Drew Pomeranz from a season ago. Brad Keller is no longer there, and they replaced him with Phil Matone. Stone, who's not very good. Hobie Milner had a rough year last year. He looks to be a little bit washed at 35 years old. Jacob Webb is a guy that they're rolling the dice on after last season with the Rangers. He posted up a 3 ERA. He was relatively solid, so that pickup I thought was relatively good, but now you're relying upon Hunter Harvey to be able to have himself a big year, and he's been all over the place throughout his career. Now for the Cubs, I think that this offense is going to be just fine. Nico Hoerner's hitting above the 3. Michael Busch is a guy that last year did a nice job with a 343 on base, 34 home runs. You did see the Cubs have a rough go of it towards the back half of the season with their lineup, but Ian Happ is looking solid with a trio of home runs already. Pete Armstrong not hitting for a ton of average to begin the season, but he's done a solid job finding a way on base thus far, so I do think that the Cubs are able to provide a little bit of wallop there. And for the Guardians last year, top 3 team in terms of bullpen and ERA, they are dealing with the injury to Hunter Gaddis, but Tim Aaron, Eric Zabrowski, Cade Smith all supplied a sub-375 ERA last season. Now, Cade Smith has not been good to start the season, and I've just never been a stan of Matthew Festa. Last year, he provided over a 4 ERA. He has not been great in this bullpen, so Guardians bullpen are looking a little bit shaky here, but was not looking shaky. How about what you've been able to get out of Chase Lauder? 4 home runs already this season. They need it because the bottom of the lineup with the likes of Gabriel Urias, Brian Rocchio, Daniel Schneemann. You've got a lot of guys hitting at 230 or lower, but Stephen Kwan, it appears as though he's just back to hitting singles. He was trying to hit for a little bit too much power at times. Last 2 seasons, he's been able to move the line. Rhys Hoskins, I thought, was a relatively solid pickup. Last season with the Brewers, he was with a little bit of injury, but he's a guy that's able to give you over 330 on base and some functional power, and I do think that for this team, they're going to need to get a little bit more out of Bo Naylor, who can clearly hit the deep ball, but was hitting right around the Mendoza line of 200 last season, but know what you're going to get out of Jose Ramirez. I do think that Slade Sassoni going to be able to give you a presentable start. He's another guy that was giving up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings last year. The walks were not too bad with him overall. Posted up an ERA last season of about a 430 while giving up just 2.2 walks per 9 innings, but I think that he and Imanaga both give up some runs, but trust in that Guardians bullpen a little bit more. At a plus 108 or better, like the Guardians on the money line, and I do like this over, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Scott Seidenberg, does such great work here at VSiN. He joined me in the last segment. If you like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, The Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at G_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every game every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.